I'm Joy. Today, I'm going to share the top 16 ACT tips that will help you get the score you want. Before we start talking about the tips, it's very important that you know your ACT score. Determine your ACT score goal and then look at how many questions you need to get correct in each section to earn your ACT score goal. For example, to earn a 21 in English, you only need to get 48 of the 75 questions correct. In the reading section, you only need to get 22 of the 36 questions correct. Let's talk about math. To earn a 21 in math, you only need to get 31 of the questions correct. That means you can get almost half incorrect. Nice! In science, you need to only get 23 of the 40 questions correct to earn a score of 21. Knowing your score and how many questions you need to get correct will help reduce your anxiety on test day. Now here's a fun ACT fact. Did you know that 62.5% of all questions on the ACT are derived from information that you learned before the end of 8th grade? Hopefully knowing that will help boost your confidence for the ACT. Now it's time to kick into our ACT 16 tips for test day. Let's get started with tip number 1. Don't assume that there must be an error. Do not fear the no change option. If a sentence seems fine, look at the differences between the answer choices to understand what concept the question is testing, and then determine whether that error is present in the original sentence. The no change answer tends to be more common than expected if all answer choices were distributed evenly. So remember, do not be afraid to select no change. Tip number 2, simple is best. Some of the most common grammar errors on the ACT English section are fairly easy to fix. If you're able to identify these errors often, you can correct them with simple changes. Always remember to edit down on the ACT. You will never add words. Always, when given the option, you will eliminate words. Tip number 3 focuses on 3 key words: except, not, or least. Some of the ACT English questions are asked with words like except, not, or least in them. When you see one of these questions, circle the word except, not, or least to remind yourself that you are looking for the wrong answer among the 3 right answers. This next tip is very important for your time management. Tip number 4 is determine now, later, or never questions. Spending too much time on the hardest problems means you may rush through the easiest problems. Instead of working questions in order, ask yourself whether a question is a do now, do later, or a do never. Every question has the same score value, so you don't get more points for a harder question. To determine if a question is a now question, read it and ask yourself, does this look okay? Do I know how to do it? Then go ahead and do it now. A question is a later question if it's going to take a long time to figure out. Leave it and come back to it later. Circle the question number for easy reference. Never questions are for those topics that are your worst topics. If you do not know where to begin, don't waste time on those questions. Instead, use more time to answer the now and later questions accurately. Tip 5 piggybacks off of tip 4. Column of the day. Have a pre-specified column of the day to fill in automatically so you don't use extra time deciding on what your choice will be. You will use this technique for those never questions. Do not select the first column, as most of the trick answers are going to be the first answer. I personally recommend column number 2 or column number 3 for your column of the day. Tip 6 is a unique strategy to help you with the reading passage. You should read the last reading passage first. Once again, start by reading and answering the questions for the last passage first and work backwards. The reason for this strategy is that the last passage tends to be the easiest, and the first passage tends to be the most difficult, as it has inferential questions which tend to consume a large amount of time when answering. Because you will be answering the questions out of order, make sure to regularly check your question numbers and answer sheet when using this strategy to make sure you do not get off track when marking your responses. In the math section, there are 16 math formulas that you'll be expected to know. So tip number 7, know and memorize the 16 most common ACT math formulas. A link to those 16 formulas is provided in the comments below. Tip number 8 sounds simple, but it's really important. Memorize the directions. During the test, you won't get extra time to read the directions. So if it takes you 5 minutes to read them, that's 5 less minutes you have to answer your questions. In the ACT, every second counts, and so does every question. So don't lose that opportunity to have more time to answer your questions. The directions to each section of the ACT can be found in the comments below. Are you an artist? Well, not on the ACT. Tip number 9, don't doodle. On the answer sheet, that is. The ACT is graded by a machine. If your doodling interferes with the reading mechanism, you could miss out on points. Keep the oval sheet as clean as possible. Save your doodling for after the ACT. Our next tip is something your parents can help you with. Tip number 10, wear a watch. You won't be able to have your cell phone on you, so you'll need to bring a watch. If you don't have one, this is a great chance to ask mom or dad if you can borrow theirs, or simply ask them to help you purchase an inexpensive watch. At the beginning of each section, reset your watch to 12, then memorize how much time you have for each section. The amount of time allotted for each section is included in the comments below. Tip number 11, look for extremes and opposites. Look for extreme words in answers like never or always. Words like that will often disqualify an answer choice because they eliminate so many correct statements. So keep an eye out for those extremes and opposites. Tip number 12, cross-check your ovals. Every 5 questions or so, double-check your answer sheet to make sure you haven't skipped an oval. There is nothing worse than getting to the end of your test and realize you missed filling in an oval somewhere and you have to erase everything. So do yourself a favor and cross-check your ovals. Tip 13, be careful if an answer comes too quickly. If a problem or a question looks too easy, that means it probably is. Beware. Make sure you think again about all the possible answers. Also, don't be fooled by the lure choice, which, as I said earlier, is oftentimes choice A, or the first column. However, at the same time, you must realize that choice A, or the first column, can sometimes be the correct answer. Tip 14, bring your own calculator. If you are testing at your school, they may provide you with a calculator. However, if you're testing at a test center, they will not provide you with a calculator, so make sure you bring an approved calculator for easier math work. Only 2 more tips to go. Tip 15, don't rush. The ACT can be a stressful situation that causes you to rush at times, which is normal. But what this does sometimes is cause you to rush into getting answers. Remember the Know Your Score sheet and how many answers you need to get correct, or how many you can get incorrect to get your target score. This should help you to relax and not rush through answering your questions. We've made it to our last tip, tip 16, food tips. Once again, this is where parents can help you prepare for the ACT. Make sure you eat breakfast that morning and bring a piece of hard candy like a peppermint or a butterscotch in your pocket. When it's time to start that science section and you're very tired, give yourself a mental pep talk, pop that piece of candy in your mouth for a little extra boost of energy, and finish strong. I recommend you review these 16 tips several times before taking your ACT. Make sure you check in the comments below for links to all sorts of free ACT resources to help you as you prepare for your ACT. Good luck, and remember to always think big.